How's it going, doggy people? I hope you all are doing well. Today we're going to look at a video by Will Atherton on how to stop your dog from pulling. So we're looking at the before behavior. The dog is very tight, on a tight leash. Owner is running, behind him. The dog has momentum, lip lick, so they're probably a little bit nervous.
We've ever seen. It's become
dogs don't like to be on a tight leash any more than owners do.
Miserable experience for them, finding it very difficult to walk it, so it's not getting as much exercise, other behaviours start to slip in. The goal of today is to go from a extremely bad puller through to beautiful heel walk. And what we're going to...
Okay, so here's one thing that I like to point out is that people apparently only ever want to learn heel. Nobody teaches just to have a loose leash walk. Like, what is this? I feel like it's just over controlling of having your dog constantly at heel. The only time they can walk is when they're heeling by your side, paying attention to you. That's controlling. With heel, a proper heel, it takes, yes, a lot of engagement, a lot of energy for the dog to stay there. They're not having fun, even though they may look like it, even with treats. Yeah, they can enjoy walking by you, but the whole point of a walk is for the dog, not for the owner. We are lucky enough to have this animal and to go along with them, not the other way around. So allow your dog to walk on a loose leash. Yes, as long as they're not pulling you and not going crazy after dogs. And there's times when you can teach your dog to heel. But you can't, when I teach a dog to walk, period, usually it's on loose leash, I tell people that walking on a loose lead is like the training wheels on a bike. Okay, you have to start training wheels. You have to start small, and then you work your way up to regular bicycle or whatever you want to say, motorcycle, whatever, off-road, and that's the heel. And you work your way up to it. Heel is a daunting task for your dog because they have to focus on you. Focus when you're turning, when you're stopping, whatever. Maybe do the automatic sit. It's not very fun for them because they don't get to sniff. It's controlling by the human, telling the dog how to walk and where to step and where to hold their head and everything like that, just like it is in the horse world. Let your dog be a dog. Yes, there's times when you can teach them to heel. I have a video on my channel, a couple of them, showing how I teach a dog to heel. But I rarely use it. And when you do use it, it shouldn't be used more than maybe 15 minutes at a time. And then allow your dog to sniff and be a dog and go to loose leash and all that. I mean, anybody on YouTube, the majority of them, the majority of trainers on YouTube and that I see in classes, all they ever teach is heel. They don't teach your dog how to walk on a loose leash. To them, the loose leash only counts when the dog is by your side. That just, to me, seems like a hole in your training method, but okay, maybe that's just me.
Do is start just doing some directional change. Sandy, let's go. Sandy, let's go.
So what he's doing is he's cutting out all the times he pops the dog like this. He's using a slip lead, which is his favorite tool. You see it's high up behind the dog's skull. There's a lot of nerve endings there. We have blood flow of arteries. We have the esophagus, the trachea, the thyroid glands. We have lots of stuff going on here, and so it's very sensitive. And that's why it works. This is tight, this is locked, this is a locking mechanism on the slip lead. And so when he turns, it doesn't take a lot, but he turns, the dog says, ouch, that hurts. They're not yelping, they're not crying out in pain, it's not going to leave a bruise, but it's enough to teach the dog, who is smarter than I think a lot of humans, because the dogs catch on much quicker, that when I am anywhere but by this guy's side, I gotta pay attention, otherwise it's gonna hurt. So this is a pop. He's cutting them all out every time he changes direction, and then he's gonna say the dog is going to engage with him. I haven't seen this dog engage with him at all. And the dog probably still won't engage.
To engage with me already because he's waiting for me to make
He's
my
not engaging,
movement.
not from what I've seen from this little bit here that he's walking. And your dog should not have to wait for you to make a movement. I don't want my dog constantly focusing on me, waiting for me to make a movement so they can prevent that correction. If you want to, then by all means do it. I just don't think that this is not realistic, in my opinion. It's not necessary. And you have to rely on this one tool. You have to use the slip lead. You use this on any harness or any regular collar for your dog, it's not going to be as effective.
Now what you're about to see...
So how long have they been working? Now this dog is sitting.
Is the power of engagement in this level.
The dog is still not engaged with him. He keeps saying the dog is engaged. The dog was looking away from him. When he was walking, the dog was over there. Maybe the dog is engaging. I would have hoped that he would have showed that in the video, but he hasn't.
Free shaping. Demeanor. I'm
Dog's
in charge
looking at
of
the
this
owner, or
walk.
maybe the camera person behind him. He likes to talk about, I'm in charge of the walk.
Shoulders back, head up, literally walking in with a finger.
The dog doesn't care that you're in charge. The dog doesn't think that you're in charge. The dog is avoiding correction. You can walk him with a finger now because you popped him several times with a slip lead high behind the head, behind the skull, around the neck. Again, as we covered, that it's very sensitive. The dog has learned to avoid that. So you can get away with walking a dog on a finger. I can do this with a dog with a harness. That's not a front clip harness, with a clip on the back, and they can be on a 6-foot leash. And I can teach them to walk loose lead, just like that, having my hand at the end of their 6-foot lead. Nothing on their neck whatsoever. And I will go into more detail about why it is so dangerous to use, one, any choking collar. This is considered one, in my opinion. It's a slip lead. They have slip collars, choke collars, choke chains, whatever. Dominant dog collars. These will cause your dog's trachea to collapse. And Adonis is one of those dogs because I used in the first place a choke chain with him because I went to a trainer who didn't know what they were doing. They were abusive. They were dangerous. And they had me use one on Adonis for 6 months before we upgraded to a prong collar. And all of that, over the years, has caused his trachea to slowly collapse. And if I can get a picture of his x-rays, then I will. And I'll show that to you. But this tool is dangerous. This type of training can be dangerous. I'm not saying that this dog is destined to have a collapsed trachea, but it can happen. It can happen in a flat buckle collar. That's why I like wide flat buckle collars. When I teach a dog to walk, we don't just go out here. I teach them how to walk to avoid that pressure on their throat.
Now, the reason this works so well and I didn't have to jump to...
The reason it works so well is because it's a slip lead. It's tight. It's constantly correcting around his neck. When he pulls, it hurts. That's why it works so well. And you can use a finger because you have a leverage of something that's tight around this dog's neck compared to the thickness of this dog's neck. I mean, this is a better circumference of leash. I've seen some that are just as small as this wire here. Some that are just as tiny as his drawstrings. America's Upstate Canine, whatever his name is, he changes his name. He uses tiny, tiny little slip leads on dogs. So the owner will have to rely on using this leash with this dog, who is still not engaging, by the way. Every time he's seen with this guy in frame, he's just looking over here. He's looking at the owner, looking at the camera guy. Not much engagement, in my opinion.
Extreme levels of correction is because of that engagement, because
Zero engagement. The reason why it works is because you popped him and it hurt. And you didn't have to, it didn't show a lot, but it's still a pop. If the dog walks to the end of the leash and he pops himself, it's still a pop. You don't have to be the one pulling it.
Became responsive through the conditioning work that we did.
But you cut out all the other pops except for that one. Of the dog running to the end of the leash. The dog became responsive to the correction, and to avoid that, he learned, I have to stay with this guy. He's still not really engaging with you. He's still ignoring you. He's just smart and says, oh, okay, he's moving. I got to go pay attention. But he's not really engaging with you.
During the directional changes drills. And in 20 minutes,
again, totally
his life
ignoring
has been
you.
transformed.
So you did this for 20 minutes.
Through a little bit of leadership, guidance.
Nothing to do with leadership. You're relying on a tool. On a pretty simple tool. A rope. And it tightens around this dog's neck. And when the dog hits the end of it, it hurts. You notice this is rounded and not flat because it hurts more when it's rounded. Really just change of direction. There's no leadership. The dog doesn't care about leaders or any of that anyway. He says leadership, direction, all of this. The dog is just learning through correction. And he's still not engaged with you. So, that's what he's saying. That's what I see. Hopefully, I'm speaking for the dog, and hopefully I'm giving the dog, I'm saying whatever the dog would be saying. But we don't know how long this would last. It's probably not going to last very long. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep sneaking away from your dog so you can correct him instead of teaching him how to walk. I'll leave a video of how I teach a dog to walk in a harness in the description below. So this is not to say, oh, go watch me instead of him. If you want to watch him, by all means do that. I'm just showing you the difference between this, which I feel is unnecessary, and showing you that I can get the same results with a harness. I'm just trying to give dogs a voice. So I hope you enjoyed this, giving you my point of view. Let me know what you think. If you liked it, feel free to like or dislike. Subscribe if you want. And until next time, stay positive.